With Crash Team Racing in the rearview mirror, we say goodbye to the Naughty Dog era of the Crash Bandicoot series. For those who are keeping up with these videos, or just have a general knowledge of the history of Crash, we mentioned in our last video that in order for CTR to be greenlit, Sony had to strike a deal with Universal to produce 2 games, Naughty Dog's Swan Song with CTR, and the first game to be made without their involvement, Crash Bash. Eurocom Entertainment Software was chosen to be the poor bastards that had to try to avoid getting slapped by Naughty Dog's massive dick while they were leaving the room. A British developer that handles mostly licensed games and port jobs. Speaking of, this actually isn't the first case of these guys catching a good old genital bashing, as a month ago, before Crash Bash's release, they had another unlucky task in being the team to follow up Rareware's universally loved GoldenEye 007 with The World Is Not Enough for the N64. Which, if I'm being completely honest, is a game that should be talked about and remembered almost as much as GoldenEye. Eurocom did a pretty damn good job, all things considered. So that must mean that Bash here must yield similar results, huh? Yeah, I wish, kids. Oh, I fucking wish. This is Team Crossbody, and this is part 5 of our Crash Bandicoot retrospective.
Come on, move it! Step on it! Come on, move it!
What? Are you talking to me? Honk the horn again, okay?
Crash is ready for battle. Crash Bash, a head-to-head multiplayer rumble. Rated E for everyone.
2 O's in Bandicoot, okay, pal? Sir?
PlayStation.
Gather around, kids, gather up. Your uncles here at TCB still have stories to tell about a possibly retarded Bandicoot, his missing sexualized girlfriend, his random out of nowhere non-sexualized kid sister, and the many men that loved him. But first, a warning. Getting older can suck sometimes when it comes to gaming. At one moment you're a kid with a fistful of dreams, infinite time, and a modded out PS1 that your parents somehow randomly knew a guy who can do that for some reason, and the next you're a jaded 30-something whose favorite hobby is on the verge of collapsing because people would rather defend brands than use common sense to know when they're taken advantage of. So you start a YouTube channel to be part of the 5 trillion people talking about retro games in an attempt not to be trapped in an endless cycle of talking about bad games all the time. Speaking of bad, Crash Bash. Yeah, sorry for not stringing you guys along for however long this video would be, but this fucking game has been giving us such a hard time for the last, 3 weeks, that the actual discussion of which one of us was going to be unlucky enough to play Crash Bash this time for footage constantly came up, which is why this video took so long to come out. And I mean, is there anyone who actually likes this game unironically? And I'm not talking about thinking it's just okay, but truly thinks it's a fantastic game. Because I used to think so. Up until this video, I legitimately thought Crash Bash was really good. To be fair, between the two of us here at TCB, we only played the game about 3 times in total, and for some reason we never really sought after the internet's opinion of the game. So I suppose we were in this blissfully ignorant state for about 25 years. But that's shattered now. Not to say everything in the game is bad, mind you, but let's just get into it.
Skip it up and down. You fail.
For the uninitiated, Crash Bash serves as an attempt at a Mario Party, the same way Crash Team Racing was for Mario Kart. And like in that game, there were some liberties taken with the formula to shake things up a bit. A lot of these are obvious, so I'll just talk about the most important changes. Bash does away with the whole board game meta concept and just focuses on the mini games exclusively. And because of this, these games are a little more complex and dynamic than Mario Party, which are typically a more get in get out affair since Vogue games do have the constant loop of board game, mini game, board game. Since Bash itself is just the games, the devs went with the round system to decide the winner. This in itself isn't a bad idea if it was an actual best of format, but Eurocom in Order Infinite Wisdom decided to go with a first to 3 round system. Once again, this isn't entirely a horrible decision. When playing Crash Bash the way it's intended with 3 other players using a multi-tap. But much like Crash Team Racing, I think it's safe to assume that the majority of players who picked this game up in the 2000s played it without the tap, meaning they ever played by themselves or with another person. This is where the two biggest issues with the first to 3 round system begins to show. Firstly, the AI is very cheap. It feels like when the game wants them to win, the odds will absolutely swing in their favor with them knowing exactly what certain things are, like power-ups, if not just outright reading your controls to gain the upper hand. Secondly, the mini games are too long. Most of them that aren't survival based have a time limit of 1:30. Now I know what you're thinking, TCB, 1 minute and 30 seconds doesn't seem all that bad. But remember, these mini games are first to 3, and if the AI wants to win, they will. What's more annoying is that instead of spreading the difficulty across all the CPU participants, the game felt like it would choose one character randomly to ride your dick hard, while the other 2 barely put up a challenge. Which is why we here at TCB dubbed Crash Bash the Get Off My Dick Simulator. And it's not like that one chosen character will be the strongest AI for the whole set. No, they'll take turns passing around that dick riding ability like they were the face from Hercules shredding that one eyeball. This creates situations if you're struggling with a particular minigame, it will have to be played up to 9 times before a winner can be declared. Trust me, dealing with the AI will make these minigames trudge on, and don't even get me started on the survival games. They can take even longer because they don't have a time limit to wrap things up for you. And that's not even counting draws, where points aren't even given and you'll have to start a fresh round with nothing gained. It's shocking how much of a pain all this is while playing this game single player, something you have to do if you want to gain access to the entire minigame list. On the subject of minigames, let's talk about Crash Bash's bread and Wampa.
So yeah, you have to play through the single player mode to unlock the remaining 12 mini games Bash has to offer, and fresh out the box, 16 of them will be available, which equals to a grand total of 28. Wow, 28. Wow. That's a pretty big collection of games for a first entry in the potential franchise. I mean, it's no Mario Party, but once again, these are a little more involved than the mundane games found there. That is, until you realize that the first 16 of Crash Bash games are in actuality 4 types of minigames, with 4 very slight variations on each that barely, and I mean barely, constitute them of being counted as a separate game. You like Crash Ball? Well, I hope you like it with an electromagnetic gimmick, or with an arena tilting one. Little things like that are what the dubs actually dub a new thing. Good to know somewhere in EA they were playing Crash Bash and thought, you know what? We can do this with the Madden series, and I'm sure nobody would never know for about 30 years.
EA Sports. It's in the
You fail.
The minigame types are Ballistics, Polar Push, Pogo Pandemonium, and Crate Crush, which are the 4 types of minigames you get from the start. The remaining games you earn through single player are Tank Wars, Crash Dash, and Medieval Mayhem. Remember, each of these have 4 games in each, except for the medieval types, which all feature different minigames. I don't understand why all the minigames could have just been different while sharing some kind of theming. For example, the jungle themed levels could have the first Crate Crush and Pogo Pandemonium in it, and then add more Crash themed games. How about one where players have to run away from a giant boulder, or a survival game involving racing on animals while avoiding obstacles, or even an on-foot race based around fighting over a light source. These were thought up in like 10 seconds. You're telling me similar ideas never came up during development? Come on, this should have been an easy home run for these guys.
Look, we've been pretty negative since the video started, and I don't want to imply that everything this game does is bad. So let's take a moment to point out the positives. First off, the game graphics are pretty solid, and does a good job at replicating the look of the Naughty Dog games. I don't think it looks better than them or anything, but nothing looks too off with things like the character models. Well, Crash always looked a little off to me, like he's a guy wearing a mascot costume. I don't know. He feels kind of empty. Dangle Dial also looks pretty strange too, but overall the visuals are nice and does Crash some justice. The music is also a plus for Crash Bash. I don't think the tunes match the Crash series as a whole, but for a spin-off game not made by Naughty Dog, I think it's fine enough. Ignoring the game being about 85% filler, the 10 unique minigames are good for what they are, and offer some strategy with individual character stats and power-ups that helps the game stand on its own. The single player mode also features bosses, and aside from not having checkpoints on some of them, were a fun and decent way to bring back a pretty important element from the core series. Alright, back to shitting on the game.
Talking about carrying over important elements from the core series and maybe being a little inspired by CTR, Crash Bash also has an adventure mode for its main single player attraction, and once again, much like Naughty Dog's last game, this one also has a story to tell. Somewhere in this random ass temple in space, Aku Aku and Uku Uka are arguing over whether good or evil is stronger. Okay, I don't know if the series ever stated this, but what are they exactly? I know they're witch doctors and all, but did they become gods or something since becoming masked? Look at them. In order to decide this argument, they ripped these guys from whatever they were doing, living their lives, in order to participate in some stupid games that involves more or less killing each other instead of just fighting it out themselves. Oh, wait, my bad. The ancients will not allow it. Hold on. Damn, Eurocom, you're one game in and you guys are already dealing out plot holes. The devs couldn't pull themselves from copying and pasting the same minigame 4 times in order to have someone play the final boss fight of Crash 3? Okay. Anyway, they teleport these guys to their temple for the ultimate contest that includes pogo sticks and tanks, and the good side is just represented by Crash and Coco, while the evil side has a whole game's worth of bosses: Dango Dao, Brielle, Tiny, Kong, and Roo. Damn, again with the plot holes, Eurocom. This intro is a mess. Let's just rattle these things off to get it out of my system. First, why can't they just fight each other? I know the ancients say they couldn't, but they were literally just scrapping a game ago. On top of that, who are the ancients? And why aren't they having this discussion since they're apparently higher up on the totem pole? I know this was already said, but I just wanted to place it here for completion's sake. Second, where's Pora? He's on the side of good and helped a couple of times throughout Crash 3 by grabbing crystals and even assisting Coco in fighting Engine. Third, Twana Bandicoot. Fourth, isn't Brio on the side of good? I know him helping Crash doesn't necessarily mean he's a good guy per se, but he would be at odds with whatever side Cortex is on at the very least, and I don't see a reason why he went inside with the Bandicoots again. Alright, I think the bit is getting old now. Huh? Who's that guy? Come on, it's Rillaroo. Rillaroo? He's all over the original Naughty Dog trilogy. You remember? Y'all really don't know who Rillaroo is? Not even from his featured role in the Japanese exclusive manga Crash Bandicoot Eyes of Heaven?
The adventure mode of Get Off My Dick Simulator is modeled behind a warp room, which are hub rooms found in Crash 2 and 3. It's cute. Counting the secret warp room, there are 5 of them in total. In order to reach these rooms, the bosses will have to be defeated. And in order to get to the bosses, minigame must be played for their trophies. At least the first room. On the second floor onward, gems and crystals in addition to more trophies must be collected to fight the bosses. On the topic of other collectibles, gems and crystals will change the objectives for the games that they're chosen for. Gems are attained by winning the challenge with the odds against you. Some rounds are timed shorter, while some require you to decrease your score to 0 in a certain time, while your score is higher than your opponent. And some levels have both, Pogo, Go-Go, and Dash for example. If you're in a team, some gems might work differently, like you have a team score to decrease, such as Pogo Pandemonium or the Medieval Mayhem levels. Crystals usually change an element of the game that make it harder for you. Some of these are really easy, while some of them are a complete pain. Unlike gems, the difficulty of these vary. There's one more item to collect that unlocks after reaching the 4th warp room, and those are the relics, which only come in the gold and platinum flavor this time around. These are usually associated with time trials within the series, but since Bash doesn't have time trials in them, they work differently here. Golds are the easier of the 2 relics to get. You need to win 2 rounds in a row against the arena champions. As you can imagine, some of these are pretty hard. Platinum relics will require you to win 3 rounds against the arena champions, so the exact same as the gold. I'm not sure if the AI is any harder since there are already some cheating bitches anyway. Much like the clone mini games, I don't see why this is even here. While playing the game, it dawned on me how fucking wild this is. Outside of the 1st and 5th warp room and that one Medieval Mayhem game in the 4th room, because the dev probably got self-conscious for a second, you are really just playing the same games over and over again. How was this okay? Why was this greenlit? Eurocom, you had since Crash 3 to make this game. How would you only get 10? 10 minigames. That's not really sitting right with me. 10 is a number you get for the number of minigames where it's not really the focus, where it's the side to like a much better game, not a game where it's the main fucking focus. Alright, I'm getting overheated again. Let's change the subject to something positive. Let's talk about the bosses a bit more. As stated before, they're overall positive for the game. These are set in minigame arenas, very usually unique take on that particular game. Popple Popples, Crate Bash, Baronators, Polar Push, Komodo Brawler, Tank Wars, and Noxious Oxide actually starts off a unique type of game where you have to chase him and avoid obstacles, but I wouldn't argue with someone just call it Tank Wars again. That leads to a 1v1 match of ballistics. All the bosses have their little quirks that separate them from the minigame counterpart, and all well designed all things considered. The last two bosses are pretty lengthy and have checkpoints added during their last phases, so I think it's pretty fair with nothing really getting too annoying here. I like them a lot. Yeah, maybe we should be talking about the actual minigames in this party game. And since it's only 10 of them, fucking 10, we might as well rank them from best to worst. We decided this by playing these minigames the most optimal way we could think of. First to 2 wins, with the AI set the easy so they won't be the most obnoxious thing on the planet. And so we could force as many Final Boost versus Madhouse matchups as possible. You'd be shocked how tolerable this game becomes when it's a first to 2 format. Or was it just playing with another person instead of purely AI? I suppose that's one of the greatest mysteries of Crash Bash. At any rate, let's get into it. Coming in dead last is ballistics. Players must use their hover ship to block and deflect steel balls into the opponent's goals. More balls will be released as the game progresses as well as the speed. The main issue with ballistics is that the game is just really slow to start, and by the time it does speed up, we're pretty much annoyed from it. I personally don't enjoy any of the variations either. Beach Ball might be my favorite out of the 4 if I had to choose, only for the ability to extract and hold on to balls that can lead to some strategies. Embolism is definitely my least favorite. Dealing with Engine, the pairing and firing out random balls is annoying enough, but him acting like a wall while he's out just doubles that irksomeness. Skyballs is just dull, with the arena tilting to one of the player's sides randomly, and it feels like it's a little glitchy too. That's how I will sum up the ballistics thing as a whole. Sure, the game rewards having fast reflexes and the like, but I can't be bothered sitting there for up to 5 minutes batting balls back and forth.
Oh my.
Jump to pop balloons while running against a rotating cog. That's it. Okay, there's a little more that's going on than that. There will be these black balloons that can be popped that affects the game, such as temporarily changing all the balloons to your color, popping them all completely, or just changing the direction of the cog, and a couple of power-ups to take advantage of, but you're still just popping balloons and it gets old really fast.
Here players have to immediately beeline the 2 fire creatures and hold square. If you get damaged at any point, you'll have to run back to the fire creatures to light up your barrel again. Then you have to run around and touch powder kegs as they appear in the room to get points. The spawn point of the fire creatures can be a bit unfair at times, but this game overall had the same issue with the other 2 on the list, with being a bit dull. You're literally just running around blowing up kegs for a minute and a half.
I actually quite like the Pogo Pandemonium type games, but it has to be on a good day, and I won't fight anybody who thinks they're pretty boring. It was a lot higher on this list, but Madhouse made some pretty good points about the game lasting too long and being pretty RNG dependent with the point boxes spawning, and it ended up here. I suppose it would be a little hypocritical if I ranked the other 3 entries so low because they get dull fast, and didn't logically place this one lower because I like it a little more than the others. This seems to be a reoccurring issue with us in Crash Bash, that all the games that you have to wait for the timer to decide a winner ends up losing their luster pretty quickly. There were times when playing this game where my eyes would just wander around and I lose focus while thinking to myself when would it end. So I suppose ultimately he's right. Anyway, back to Pogo Pandemonium itself. The objective is to jump on squares and cover them with the character's assigned color, and then turn the squares into points by breaking purple crates. Prevent other players' scores from being higher by jumping on their color squares, and change their potential points to yours. I also think it's one of the better minigames when it comes to slight variations. Pogo A Go-Go is my favorite and the most unique of the 4 types. It's the only one where you don't have to worry about breaking the purple crates, but instead you have to make squares. Once one is made, the whole area that is a circle will fill with that color, and you'll earn points for every square filled with that color. You can even use the walls that are constantly alternating between player colors to help create a quicker square for you to fill if you stay on your color, obviously. This one is pretty cool, as since you don't have to worry about the RNG screwing you over, there's time to actually formulate some kind of plan. El Poco Loco takes the same rules from Pogo Go-Go, but you have to break the purple crates for points this time, while Ripperoo bounces around the field alongside the players. When he enters, he can lay TNTs, fire off missiles, and turn squares into 4-way tiles. If you're looking for some chaos with this genre, this is the variant you come to. Pogo Padlock is what the name implies. Over the course of the game, a padlock will spawn that will lock your color from changing for about 8 seconds or so. And that's about it. It's the weakest of the 4 overall, but it does offer a lot more than the other games before it, so I think 7 is a solid spot for Pogo Pandemonium altogether.
Mallet Mash is very simple. Run and smash mushrooms. There's an element of risk involved with the longer a mushroom has been out, the more they're worth, but they might explode and stun players who wait too long. There's also a golden mushroom that will spawn that's worth a lot more points. But that's it. I don't think it's more entertaining than a Pogo line of games, but since there's only one of this type, it's over quickly.
Crash Dash fucking sucks. I hate it. I hate the controls, I hate the variations outside the most basic and maybe the one with them riding the sea animals because it's kind of cute. I hate these two variants that are essentially the same thing but just different skins. I hate that the obstacles for these two are super annoying and just litter the road, and not in a fun way because the AI will intentionally go out of its way to attack you. And I hate that it's everything I dislike about Mario Kart, bottled and localized into a stupid isometric racing game. The only reason Crash Dash is this high is because you're master of your own destiny. What does that mean? It's skill based, when it wants to be, but overall more skill is involved in the other games listed so far. What else? Oh yeah, Rillaroo growing fat fucking tits.
Much like Crash Dash, tank wars can be absolutely brutal, especially if you're an idiot and picked Coco. Tank wars has players control a tank that can fire their turns at opponents. Depending on what the character is, the weaponry can be different. In Coco and Crash's case, they shoot a slow-moving projectile at a time, which can leave them holding their decks, while the scientists get to do the same thing but faster. And other characters get to have either faster, stronger, or more projectiles. Bouncing issues aside, I really like Tank Wars a lot. It might be the most strategic minigame out the bunch, with players not only having to worry about their opponents, but the environment as well. In Metal Fox, the walls consistently shift up and down that forces you to adapt to different situations quickly. It also has special bombs that can be picked up that allow players to lob them over walls. Jungle Fox had this totem pole that will enter the arena and jump around, crushing players, causing massive damage. And Swamp Fox will replace the tanks with these rotor bolts that allow players to move more quicker and freely, generate protective shells, and lay bombing mines. But unlike the tanks, they can only be fired from the direction the player is facing. Much like Pogo Pandemonium, I enjoy all the variants here, but that's the case for the remaining games on this list.
Drag and drop is the best, we gotta wait until the timer's up minigames. What players have to do here is shoot the gems at a moving target. The further you are from the target, the more points that shot is worth. Once again, simple, with the only real strategy being to camp the back of the map and wait for the gems to eventually fall there, which would be most cases after any shot. There's nothing particularly special about this, it's just a really solid one. I'd argue that drag and drop isn't too far removed from a Mario Party minigame.
Polar Push, despite having some balancing issues, is a fun one. Unlike most of the other games, there's elements presented in these games that actually help with that issue. Tilt Panic pushes the arena on one side, so even if your character has a weak push, it can be used to give them that edge if they're hanging there long enough. In Melt Panic, the arena shrinks, and Uka Uka freezes players that stand under him. In Manic Panic, you can use bombs to circumvent pushing altogether, which creates another win condition. These can get pretty tense when another player is involved, and players have come up with some tactics here and there. I really like Polar Push a lot.
Crate Crush was the predictable #1 minigame of Crash Bash because it is the quintessential Crash Bash minigame. I'm positive most people are thinking about this when they're talking about the game. And if you're thinking about ballistics, what the fuck is wrong with you? Crate Crush also has the best variants. Jungle Bash is the most basic of the games, but that's how all the games start. Space Bash has destroyable floors that's caused by TNTs and nitros. Snow Bash becomes chaotic once the penguin in the middle wakes up and begins spinning, pushing everything around as he does. And Drain Bash offers a bunch of powerful power-ups to pick up and use against the other players. While not bad, I would say it's the least interesting of the four. Crate Crash is essentially a scuffed Power Stone and manages to actually use Crash Bandicoot mechanics, and it's just a fantastic all-around minigame. All in all, I wouldn't call any minigame in Crash Bash objectively bad. I can even see how ballistics can be fun for certain people, but they all have their charm to them once you get past the beyond annoying way you have to interact with them during single player, which is once again the only method to unlock them outside of cheating. Like with most games, they are significantly improved the more human players are in the mix, and I believe they are best played with the first of two format instead of three.
Is Crash Bash bad? In theory, no. You know what? Fuck it. Fuck trying to be nice with this shit. Yes. Yeah, it's bad. But just that. I don't think it's god awful. But I've never played a game that was stretching for content from the start of a friend save file. I still don't get how they only thought of 10 mini games for a party game. Honestly, if Crash Bash was shorter, with just the 10 mini games, and they didn't have those almost arrogantly lazy variants, I would have been truly okay with things like the Shape AI paired with the first of 3 round system. On the opposite side, if Eurocom could have pulled their brain cells together and thought of at least 10 more mini games and saved those variants of things like crystal and gem challenges for players to unlock, I would have had no complaints. I want to reiterate that Crash Bash isn't devoid of any positives, but why should we consider that a good game when it came right after the amazing Crash Team Racing? I get the feeling that the devs wanted Bash to be that similar type of game. Take something that Mario usually does and craft it to a game that's familiar, but outperforms it by keeping the overall simplicity while adding a great layer of depth that made both camps happy. It certainly steps in the right direction, I'll give it that. But the content just isn't there. Crash Bash could have went down as a classic, but it was just to open the act in the serious Dark Ages. It's Nomad era. We'll see you next time on Nostalgia-tards. Okay, playing that game was admittedly pretty rough. What's next on the retrospective docket? Oh, that's ominous.